But unlike you, the young people in the crowd had never ever seen Madiba's face nor heard his voice. He had been jailed before they were even born, and all they knew of him was his name, whispered by their parents. Throughout those 27 years, when he was a prisoner of a heartless regime, it was the mothers and the fathers of this country who kept his name and memory alive. Winnie Mandela kept Nelson Mandela's name alive every day. She and many others kept the fires of resistance burning in the breasts of the people of this country. We recall the mothers and fathers of Khayelitsha, of Manenberg, of Gugulethu, Bonteheuwel, and in so many other towns and villages who ensured that the name Nelson Mandela was never forgotten. You are the people who hid his messages and writings and those of the banned African National Congress in your homes and shared them with others to keep his memory alive. You wore T-shirts with messages printed like "Free Nelson Mandela," risking arrest. You told your children about him and that he was fighting so that one day we could all be free. At a time when the mere mention of his name was enough to get you arrested, you never let up the cry that had been resounding around the world to free Nelson Mandela. You, the people of this great city, kept your promise to him that you would bring him home, and you did bring Nelson Mandela home. And his first place of arrival was here in Cape Town. So thank you, Cape Town, for warmly welcoming Nelson Mandela. So we pay tribute to you as Cape Townians. Above all, we thank you. It is indeed difficult to describe, having been witness to the events of the 11th, the day the gates of Victor Verster prison swung open and President Mandela walked free. I was pleased to hear that a number of members who were part of the reception process went to Victor Verster prison, and a number of them are here. Trevor Manuel, Vali Musa, Bulelani Nguka, Jay Naidu, and a number of others. They are here and they can tell their own stories of how that day unfolded and how, as we brought Nelson Mandela from Victor Verster, when we had said to the apartheid regime, now that you have released him into the hands of our people. We don't want any of your police or army near him because we feared that they could harm him when he was amongst our people. So we said, your police must keep away. And so we drove him from Victor Verster coming up here into Cape Town. And along the way, the convoy was so long and so complicated was the traffic that along the way we lost Nelson Mandela's car. We did not know where his car was for a few hours. I was with Vali Musa, Trevor Manuel, and we panicked. and thought that the people of our country will never forgive us for having lost Nelson Mandela. But he emerged, and we were really pleased. So this was a moment that brings a lot of words into one's mind: exhilaration, excitement, anticipation, fear, relief, joy. Perhaps all of these were rolled into one, but nothing could describe that brief second when the microphone crackled right here where I am standing, when it crackled to life and a hush came over the crowd, because that was the moment when everyone was waiting to hear Nelson Mandela's very first words. And when he uttered the famous words, "I stand before you, not as a prophet, but as a humble servant of you, the people," everybody just applauded and got excited, because many people were hearing his voice for the first time. 30 years since that day, we will forever remember those first words of this great man, this great symbol of resistance and of the inhumanity of the apartheid regime. This icon who in every sense is a legend. He had endured the unimaginable 27 years of incarceration, torn away from his family and his community, and shut away from the outside world and taken away from his organization. First on a forsaken island in the middle of the sea, and then behind the high walls of a prison compound. He had been taken to prison in chains while still a young man in his prime, and was now returning as a 72-year-old man whose health had been ravaged by the harshness of prison life. Given all he had gone through, it would have been understandable if he used his first speech right here at this point where I'm standing, as a free man, standing on these steps to denounce his captors, to gloat and to call for revenge. If anyone had the right to do so, it was Nelson Mandela. But he stood here and paid tribute to the people of South Africa, to the international community that had campaigned for his release, to the leaders of the liberation movement, in particular the African National Congress and fallen comrades. He repeated demands for the release of political prisoners, for the lifting of the state of emergency, and for the immediate end to violence so that negotiations could commence. He called on white compatriots to be part of shaping a new South Africa, saying uniting the people of the country was the foremost priority.